Hello. In the last session we discussed first of all the 1:4 ratio, the link between the 1 of God and 4, the phenomenal world, and how 1 plus 4 is 5, and how 5, represented by the letter He, is or was incorporated into the names of Sarah and Abraham, from Sarai to Sarah and Abram to Abraham, which enabled them to be fertile such that Sarah could give birth to the second patriarch, which is Isaac. What we also noted was it's not only the total geometrical value of a word, but also the structure of the word, the meaning of the different numbers which are set in the word. We also considered that in the Bible you have enlarged letters and small letters. And we noted how the small He was in the book of Genesis in the 2nd chapter, and how this He was effectively used to be implanted into the name of Abraham. Now let's go one step further. First of all, to look at the large letter, and as I mentioned in the last talk, why does the first letter in the Bible begin with the letter Bet, B, and why is it a large letter? And then to go on to why did it not begin with the letter Aleph? Would it not make sense if it had been the first letter of the Bible on the act of creation? It would be a letter Aleph. So let's have a look at this. So let us look first of all at the Bible. This is the book of Genesis, Bereshit, and here, as I mentioned previously, we see that the first letter of the first word is in the beginning. In Hebrew it's Bereshit, and the first letter is a big B, or big Bet. It's not a big bet simply because it's the first letter of the Bible. It has other reasons. But the first question we ask is, why is it a bet? And why isn't it Aleph? If it's the first letter of the Bible, and we're discussing here Gematria, where Aleph, with a value of 1, is basically the value of God in the phenomenal world, then one would anticipate that the first letter of the Bible would be an Aleph. But it's not, it's a Bet. So why is this? Here you see the letter Bet and the letter Aleph. Bet has a value of 2. Basically, the reason it begins with a Bet is because Bet stands for Big Bang. What do we mean by Big Bang? It means it's the initiation of the dualistic world. The world of the Aleph is the world of unity, the world of singularity. But the Bet is the beginning of duality. And so we see in the 6 days of creation, there is light, there is darkness, there is heaven, there is earth, there is the water above and the water below. So what we see is the creation of a dualistic world. And that is the reason that the Bible begins with a Bet, and it's a big Bet. So let's go one step further and look at the Aleph. If we look at Aleph carefully, what you'll find is it actually comprises of 3 letters. This letter here is the letter Vav, which has a value of 6, and it's a symbol of a hook. This letter is a yod, sound, and it has a value of 10, and that is also yod. So what we have is a yod above, a yod below, connected by a hook. As I mentioned, yod has a value of 10. Aleph, God in a primordial form, has a value of 1, and yod is 1 decade above, so 10, and that is God in a conscious form. The symbol of the hook, the vav, is linking God in heaven, God on earth, with a hook. It's binding the two together. And this is the meaning of the letter Aleph. So inherent before the creation of the universe, inherent in the letter Aleph was the duality. But that duality had not expressed itself until you had the Big Bang, until you had the creation of the dualistic world. Now, the interesting thing about this letter Aleph, that if we put a circle around it, and now I take this away here, and we look below, it is very similar to the yin-yang sign. The yin-yang sign is an ancient Chinese symbol, and basically the concept is the same, that you have a dualistic world. The yin is the dark, the yang is the white, yin is yin is earth, it is female, it is passive, and the yang is heaven, it is heat, it is warm, it is male, and it is active. And what you have here are these dots, which is the seed of yin and yang. But basically, the concept of Aleph and this symbol of yin and yang is the same. It's a universe in itself with a relationship between the yin and the yang. If the yang expands, so the yin contracts. If the yin expands, the yang contracts, and so on. So we see, as part of the ancient Chinese symbol, something very similar in our letter Aleph. Just to add to that point, which is also interesting, the Aleph actually means the head of a bull. Now, the head of a bull, if we go back to astrological theory, the current astrological period is the age of Aquarius, you might remember from the song, and the previous age, which was 2,000 years previously, was the age of Pisces, before that the age of Aries, and at the dawn of civilization, the age of the Taurus. So if we look at this letter Aleph, as I mentioned, with the yod above, the yod below, and the vav, and we look at the gematria of this, yod is 10, vav 6, the other yod is 10, a total value of 26. The word for God in Hebrew is written yod hey, vav hey, YHVH. It is forbidden to pronounce this word. It is the holy word of God, and therefore normally we simply say Adonai, and we write it not in this form, but we write it simply as two yods, Adonai. If you see yod yod, then it means Adonai. Now, if we look at this word for God, yod he vav he, the numerical value of this is yod is 10, Hey 5, Vav is 6, and the last Hey is 5 again. Again, it adds up to 26. So the 26 that we see here, and the 26, if we break down the letters, the numerical value of Aleph as Yod, Yod and Vav, is the same. The question here is, it's the same, but it's not the same. Here you have a Yod, Yod and a Vav, and here you have a Yod, Hey and a Vav, Hey. So where did these two Heys come from? Why is it not like this is Yod, Vav, Yod, the name for God? So if we look at the Aleph here, there's basically a transformation to this format, and this is in diagrammatic form, where you have Yod Hey, Vav Hey, written like this. The Vav is still connecting between heaven and earth, but this Yod has broken up into two and shifted to here. Yod is 10, Hey is 5, so Yod has split into two Heys and moved up to here. This may remind you of something about the word of Sarai, Abraham and Sarah, and it is very much connected. But, so here you have a value of 15 above the Vav, and here you have a value of 5. Now, if some of you are familiar with the scientific concept of osmosis, where you have a semi-permeable membrane, and that if, for instance, you have water on one side of the membrane and salt on the other side of the membrane, then water will flow towards the salt to try to make it more diluted. So because you have an imbalance here, you effectively have a flow of energy. And this is what we are seeing here. Before the creation, it was a world of unity. After the creation, we had a world of duality and an exchange of energy between heaven and earth. So by having that imbalance from the name of God, Adonai, from the name Yod He, Vav He, we have a flow of energy moving from heaven towards earth, which is basically what sustains us. So when God breathed the neshima, or the soul, into Adam, basically we see this change of energy moving from heaven to earth, from God to man. In Indian context, this might be called prana, and in the concept of, in Hebrew, we call it neshima, which is both soul and also the word for breath. So now, looking at this concept, at the creation of the world, where the Aleph is transformed into the holy name for God, Yod He Vav He, we can see how this relates to the changing of the name of Abram to Abraham and the name Sarai to Sarah. In the same way that the Aleph is transformed to Yod He Vav He, one of the Yods is taken with the value of 10. It's split into two Heys, each with a value of 5, and each Hey is put into the name of Abraham and Sarah. This allows them to become fertile, and the birth of the second patriarch, Isaac, takes place.